Hi all, Graham here, and here is something a little bit different. As always about Saga, today I had a chat with Mark Birch. He is the current Grand Melee champion, but he also organises a lot of the Saga competitions over here in the UK. We talk about the game, where it's going, how he organises tournaments, and indeed the upcoming event at Grand Melee at Warfare in Reading. Hope you like it. Please feedback what you see. And here we go. Right. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Graham. I'm very well, thank you.
Look, it's great to talk to you. And one of the key things I want to talk to you today about is obviously Saga, but tournaments, because you're a big tournament player and an organizer as well. So it's really great to get your perspective on tournaments and the way things go. It's certainly in the UK anyway. So right, let's discuss. So first of all, a bit of background. Where are you in the UK? Where do you live? And
I live in Derby. So for those people outside the UK, it's about 120 miles north of London in the middle of the country. So it's nicely located to get to different sort of places and venues.
Yeah, I can imagine. So in Derby, do you belong to a club or how do you get your games?
Okay, not for Saga. So my gaming consists of probably about three parts, I suppose. I've got a regular buddy I game with most Sunday nights, mainly
Richard.
at my house. Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, I know
it
him,
is. Yeah. So we meet most Sundays, and then since I took retirement, I do quite a few sort of gaming days with sort of friends and that.
Oh, right.
So Andy Lyon, Jed, with Richard as well, with the Northern Tempest sort of guys. So very often at somebody's house, we'll have sort of like a gaming day where we can get sort of 4 games in and stuff like that, and they can be pretty intense. So I do that as well. And then I am a member of the Burton Club, which is only a few miles away. But I don't do Saga there. I do To the Strongest there. So I reckon I get between 100 and 120 games in a year with competitions as well, and probably about half of those are Saga. So yeah. I'm probably doing 50 to 60 Saga games a year. So I'm pretty lucky. I'm getting quite a lot of gaming in.
So you're not tired of it then, Saga?
Sorry?
You're not tired of it?
No.
That's not very good.
If anything, I find by playing another system for a bit and having a few weeks off and then going back to it, perhaps moving on to a different warband, some of the scenarios change and things like Rog bringing out different variants on scenarios.
Do you know what?
It's refreshing all the time.
Did you know what the Rog thing is quite interesting because I watch his things and his army reviews, and I go, oh, okay, I'll try the Carolingians like that. Then he does one on the Jom's Vikings. I think, oh, I'll have a go at that as well. So yeah, I'm kind of with you a little bit. I don't stick to one faction. I flit around a lot, and all the time there's new content to try. I'm happy, and I'm obviously excited about things that are coming up in the future as well. So for me, I've been playing it since 2013. So when did you start playing Saga? Were you on version 1? You're version 1. I know I played you in a competition version 1, so I know you were.
Did you? Who won?
I did. Oh no, we drew the game and I won the competition, mate. It's the only one I've ever won.
Blimey, eh?
A challenge that was in Oxford.
All right, okay, well done. I was actually I played DBM sort of competitions for years, and I packed up playing them about 2008, and then I frittered around with one or two other things, and then I heard about Saga, and I actually got in touch with the Gripping Beast guys and sort of said, could you send me? I'd like to buy the figures to do a couple of starter warbands, and this was before Saga came out. And they kindly sort of said, well, this is what you need for 2 starter armies, Anglo Danes and Vikings. And I bought those figures and started painting them up. And then the rules came out, and then I got the rules that sort of as soon as they came out. So I was in sort of as soon as the rules came out. So
yeah, I must admit I wasn't that far behind it either on the.
Yeah,
but we both played version 1. I played an awful lot more tournaments in version 1. I don't think I've ever played a version 2 tournament actually. But,
Yeah.
But no, I played a lot in version 1. So tournaments is your thing. So I mean, generally as an introduction to tournaments, you said you played version 1 and version 2. Do you feel there's an improvement in gameplay for version 2?
I think version 2 is a tighter game, and I think it's a better game. I think version 1 in the tournaments we haven't got back to the same numbers that we had in version 2, and I think that's probably a lot of the older war games like you and I. I think those numbers have decreased as they've moved on to the next shiny thing, we definitely lost numbers there.
Kind of interesting that, because maybe not in tournaments, but I mean, I play at Reading, and we seem to be picking up players who play Lord of the Rings, younger players who play, 40k, and it seems to be a stepping stone. So there is an opportunity to grab players, and we're at Reading. We've got a little hub of new players who are playing, and it seems to be growing. Whether they're moving over to tournaments, maybe not. I think I don't know. I do wonder the 2-day things, whether they're a good thing or whether it should be a 1-day tournament that puts people off. I remember BritCon, Manchester. You guys used to play Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. How many games? Was that 7 games or something?
No, we used to do 9 or 10.
9 or 10? Wow. I mean, I'd be burnt out after about 2 or 3, I think. But I don't know.
I think you're right. I think the older players. I was speaking to Tim Porter, the guy who sort of runs BritCon for BHGS, and the numbers of overall entrants at BritCon, competitors, was up by about 30% this year on their pre-COVID numbers. So overall, competitive gamers, the numbers are up. Now, some of that might be to do with BritCon moving from Manchester to Nottingham, so it's more central. But so that was encouraging. I think the Saga struggle in numbers a bit. It's a competitive scene whereby a lot of Saga players play other rule systems, and a lot of the events that are on at the same time as other events. So there's an ADLG, there was a MEG, there was a Bolt Action tournament, there was a this tournament, that tournament. And you get a lot of people wander around and look at Saga, who obviously play Saga, but they've chosen to do another competition. So you get those group of people. But then you're quite right. What is very encouraging, we are starting to see a few guys in their 30s who are sort of starting to appear, and that is really great to see.
I think there is a crossover between them, but you've got to capture them and get them involved. But so you touched on BritCon there. How did it go? So for those who don't know, BritCon was played last weekend in Nottingham. Nottingham University. They hosted it because my mate Wayne came up and played in the Saw Point. How many players did you have? Just give us a quick chat on that.
Yeah, sure. So it was a really good event overall. New venue. It's at Trent University, right in the centre of Nottingham. Nice, airy sort of room and facility, trade stands and that sort of thing. So it was a really good event. In terms of Saga, Daniil ran the event, and he ran it very well. And although it was a 2-day competition, there were 2 separate days. So we had more guys for the Saturday than we had for the Sunday.
Oh, that's good.
What
numbers? What numbers did you have?
12 on the Saturday, and we should have had 10 on the Sunday, but somebody had to cancel. So then Daniil dropped out, so we went down to 8. So those were the numbers. So 12 on Saturday was perhaps a bit disappointing, but like I said, Wayne came round and chatted to us, and he was doing something else. He was doing Sword Point, you say, not Saga, and you get these sort of people who are coming round to see how the Saga's doing, but they've chosen to do a different competition. So it was a good event. So the Saturday was Age of Melee. So it was Age of Invasions, Vikings, or Crusades. And we got 4 games in a day. I came second in that. Andy Lyon won that with his picks. So it's nice to see the picks win something.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then on the Sunday, it was Age of Hannibal, which, again, Age of Hannibal might have been one reason why the numbers were down, because I think one problem with Age of Hannibal at the moment is obviously there's only 6 factions to choose from, and we didn't have anybody turn up with Iberians or Numidians, so there was only 4 factions present between 8 players anyway. I won on the Sunday with my Republican Romans. And then I won overall because I'd come second on the Saturday and first on the Sunday, so I won the overall competition. I would say it was a good competition.
Did you use ruses for Sunday then?
No, we didn't.
What's your feeling on ruses then? I've a point of view on those.
Yeah, I quite like them from a thematic point of view, and if I was playing a friendly game, I'd be fine with them. I'm not sure they're really needed, to be honest. I think there's enough.
You're being really diplomatic, Mark, because I don't like them. I don't like them. They don't belong in a game of Saga, and I don't use them. So, no. But that's me, isn't it? So we don't use them. I mean, it's like the epic games. I like the big, games, but they take so long to play. Because I mean, you've got how many battle boards? You've got 4, 6 a turn. You've got 24 battle boards to go. It's a Sunday game. It's a Sunday game. But I like them. They look great. But
Epic is something that is on my list to do over the next few months. Actually, I've only done it once with sort of a 2-a-side, and like you said, it just took too long, and people were just sitting there waiting for their turn and that sort of thing. Yeah. So I think Richard and I are going to try and do a few games just one-on-one and see how that goes. And
just give yourself plenty of time. That's all I say. It's an all-dayer. So you touched on the fact that you play Age of Melee. So for those who don't, as you say, Age of Melee is playing across the 4 books. Do you find that the books are balanced, the factions are balanced between all 4, or do you find some say that Age of Hannibal isn't as strong? I've seen that. What's your feelings on
that? I think they are. I mean, Joe from Northern Tempest came 3rd at the Grand Melee last year with his Iberians. I think it was 3rd. So I think particularly the Iberians. So it's probably like any book that you've got factions that are stronger than others, or perhaps more adaptable to different scenarios than others. So no, I think they're fine. I think the Age of Hannibal armies perhaps are a bit vulnerable to shooting, and I could see how if you came up against a few shooty factions, you might struggle. But no, I think they are fine. Do I like cross tournament or cross book tournaments? Not my first choice from a historic gamer's point of view. I mean, we've all been there in the past, sort of when we've done New Kingdom Egyptian versus Wars of the Roses. And you think,
do you know what? I was going to say that.
Yeah,
you're talking WRG 7th or 6th edition.
Yeah,
this is the 1980s. You could WRG was a war games group, and they used to play between 1500 BC to 1400 AD, and you could play in a competition, play anything at all. And some of the mismatches, I know, in the early days were quite incredible.
So I don't like it from a historic gamer's point of view. As a game, it works. There's no problem with that. So I suppose the obvious question then is, well, why is the Grand Melee? Does it allow that? And that's simply because if you're going to run a national championship, you want as many people there as possible. So if the aim of the tournament is to get a national champion, then you really want to sort of have everybody there. So my preference would be to have smaller sort of time spans, and perhaps we'll see sort of invasions, Vikings, Crusades as sort of one, and then sort of the ancients could be grouped together as we move through Alexander and Caesar and that sort of thing with Hannibal. But I think for the Grand Melee National Championship, you've got to make an exception, but other tournaments I'd perhaps prefer to see themed in some way.
Okay, interesting. I must admit, I haven't played I don't think I've played across the books games yet. But okay, so there's another question for you. So you play a lot of tournaments. How do you find? So sell to me tournaments, and how do you find a tournament game differs from a club like the game?
Okay, so the games themselves, do they differ? They differ only really with the tempo. So when Richard comes around here and we're playing a Sunday night, we'll perhaps start the game at 8 o'clock, and we'll take 4 hours. And in between that, we'll perhaps have a drink, have a bit of cake or something, and we'll end up chatting about what's going on in our worlds and what's going on in the world in general and stuff like that. And so it just goes at a slower pace. Obviously, when you're in a tournament, you're talking about sort of an hour and 3/4, 2 hours. So the only real difference is that tempo. And we don't end up sort of sitting there opposite somebody and you put the world to rights in a wargaming tournament. Whereas, you can do that sort of when you're playing a sort of friendly game at home or at a club or whatever. So that is the only real difference I find. I think competitions have actually got a bit of a bad reputation where people say, "Oh, I don't want to, competition game as this, that, and the other." The Saga tournaments really aren't that heavy or overly competitive. I find the game itself sort of doesn't lend itself to that too much. There was very few sort of umpire calls sort of last week and at BritCon, because I think the game is quite streamlined, and I think the people there sort of aren't of that ilk. So I wouldn't. I think a lot of people sort of say, "Oh, I don't want to do competition games because I'm meeting strangers, or my figures might not be painted up great, or whatever." And I think they're building barriers that, okay, if they are really barriers to those people, that's fine. But I don't think those barriers are really there. And I think people would actually be pleasantly surprised if they came along and sort of gave it a go.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like about competition games is obviously it's preset terrain, isn't it? Normally, was it preset terrain?
No, it wasn't. No, they've moved away from that at the moment. Some competitions do preset terrain just to try and get an extra game in. Yeah. I think one of the things with BritCon and one of the things with the Grand Melee, because we've got the halls for quite a bit of time, you don't need to do that route. In the past, I've done tournaments with preset terrain just to try and get an extra game. But
well, so one of my things at the moment is slow play, which I only play club-like games. And what's your feelings on that? So if you're in a competition and someone is being particularly thoughtful, and you're getting onto an hour and a half, you're only on turn 3, turn 4. What's your feelings on that then, Mark? If you was an organizer and you're walking around seeing that happen, what's your feelings? I'm sorry, I'm being a bit just asking.
No. I don't like the idea of having clocks. I know some people have talked about having clocks.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I like it either, to be fair.
No, I don't think I'll go that far. I've been a competition gamer for sort of 30 plus years. And how many times has this been an issue? Probably half a dozen times for me, this has been an issue in that 30 years. How many times have I been an issue like that or been accused of slow play? Probably a similar number, about half a dozen times. And I do think you need to look at it. Sometimes people can just sort of say, "Oh, that person's turn 4 took ages," whereas that person might have been quite quick in turn 1, 2, and 3. And it's the overall feel for the game. And sometimes whether people are being slow and they've only got 3 Saga dice or something like that, well, it shouldn't really take that long with 3 Saga dice. So it depends on the context. I don't think it's a big problem in the game, to be honest. Sometimes you've got to accept that it is going to happen, and you might be sort of outmaneuvering a person, and so they are having to stop and think, and you just have to accept that a bit. I normally find just by sort of saying, "Look, we need to get a move on if we're going to get 5 turns in or whatever," so somebody will sort of hurry up, and it's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay. So next question is, how do you prepare for a tournament? I mean, obviously you're playing, you have to practice with your faction. And do you play all the scenarios? Do you try and play against, get Richard to dig out the Yoms Vikings if they're going to turn up? There's going to be 5 lots there. You get him to encourage him to play them, or how do you prepare for a tournament?
I probably concentrate more on the scenarios than the warband, to be honest. And sort of remind myself of the scenario and what works in the scenario and what doesn't. I normally have an idea of perhaps 4 or 5 warbands that I want to take or whatever, and I'll perhaps play different games with them. And very often with Richard, what we'll do is I'll ask him, well, what do you want to face? What do you want to have a practice against? So I'll dig out a warband that he wants to play against, and I can find that quite good in terms of playing the scenario. So I put most of my pre-tournament stuff on sort of playing the scenarios, remind myself of the scenarios, how they work, and that sort of thing, rather than I do with the warbands. And then the warbands, unless I'm going to go with a completely new warband that's just been painted or something, or just come out of a new book, I can find that I can sort of pick a warband up after 1 or 2 sort of plays, sort of thing. So for instance, for BritCon, just on the Age of Melee, I took Welsh, and I think I had 1 practice game with them, and no, 2, and I was just able to pick it up quite quick. And the reason I took the Welsh in the end is I played a couple of different warbands, and I just thought, I really enjoyed playing the Welsh, so I'll take the Welsh this time. So
you've got to enjoy it, and you've got to. Yeah, there's no point taking something that doesn't suit you as a person and your play style, and that's a taken. So the next big one coming up then is Grand Melee, which we touched on. Now, Grand Melee, for those who don't know, is being hosted by Warfare, which is my local club, Reading. They're actually playing in Farnborough this year. So it's a change of venue because Ascot Racecourse isn't available. And it's funny enough, they've just had the Great British Motor Show there as well. The same venue. It's a huge venue, so there's plenty of space. So tell me about Grand Melee then. What's the arrangements you've got for that?
Okay. So the Grand Melee is 12th, 13th of November, as you say, at Farnborough. We're playing 6 games over 2 days, so Saturday and Sunday. We've allowed for 2 hours a game, so that's a bit more generous than BitCon last week, which was 1 hour and 3/4. So, and there's a reasonable lunch time, so people can go around the trade stands as well. So fairly relaxed. We can overrun on the Saturday night as well, which sort of helps a bit.
So that's good.
Yeah. So we can't overrun on the Sunday night, but obviously for obvious reasons that people are packing up and that sort of thing. So so 6 games. The scenarios we are playing, I've written them down here. They are Desecration, Ambush, and Change of Plans on day 1. And on day 2, it's Fight Around the Fire from the Age of Invasions book, Claiming Territory, and Clash of Warlords. So those are the 6 scenarios. So there's a nice mix in there. I think 3 are on massacre points, 1 on survival points, 1 on conquest points, and then Change of Plans, which is a bit of everything. So a bit of variety there. So hopefully that will favour different scenarios, will favour different warbands. So we'll get a nice spread of warbands like we had last year. So pretty excited about the tournament. I think we've already got 4 people down for coming in from overseas. The pack has been out for a few months now, and I did the pack. The scoring is the same as last year for those that entered, and hopefully we'll get a reasonable turnout.
Oh, interesting. Well, what are you going to take? So I'll put you on the spot there.
I can't say that. Andy Lyon might watch the video.
No, I'm teasing you. I'm teasing.
The one thing I forgot is this is the trophy we're playing for.
All right, you got it in your house then.
Yeah, you're allowed to bring this home if you've won. So
all right. So out of interest, so how many years has that trophy been out for then?
Oh, I did put that down. Is this the 7th or the 8th tournament? I can't remember. This is either the 8th or the 7th staging of this tournament.
Was that the tournament in 2014?
Yes, yes, it was in Cardiff.
I played in that.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I came. Go on.
I came second.
No, I came fifth, I think. I did okay. I had a good run on the first day, 1-3, and I think I played Richard actually on the second day. I think we drew or lost, and I won one and drew and a loss, I think. So yeah, I did all right. I came okay. Yeah, good talk. Great venue.
Yeah, it was good venue. Yeah, I've come second about 4 or 5 times, and then I won it last year. So
been due it.
Yeah.
Right, excellent. So that's how do people get in touch with you to apply to play? I mean, obviously it's on the Facebook group, the Saga. Where else? How do they contact you?
The Discord channel, Saga Thursday Discord channel. I'm on there as Mark B. If people wanted to drop me a line there. And the Facebook group, I'm on the Saga Facebook group if people want to contact me there. And the forum, though, there's not much traffic on the studio.
Not much, no, it's not much.
So they can contact me through any of those means. And on you enter via the Warfare site, the Reading War Games Club Warfare site. They can enter there and download the pack from there. The pack is also loaded on the tournament section on the Discord channel. And then what I do is, for those people who have entered, I've got a distribution list that I email out people as I get questions. So as I get questions, what I try and do is I answer them to the person, and then I try and do a more generic answer about a query out to the whole community, so everybody's got the same information. So if you were to ask me a question about how does the half point rule work for swapping troops in and out each game, how does that work for my Byzantine faction or something, I will try and answer your specific question, and then what I'll tend to do a few weeks later is put something out to the overall community about the half point rule in general. Yeah. So I'm not giving away somebody's secret about their faction, but I'm trying to answer the issue as well. So I do that to this distribution list I've got of all the entrants.
Oh, cool, excellent. Oh, well, I mean, it's a shame I can't play it because I work Sundays.
Yeah.
What the club? I mean, I don't know. With our club, they encourage you to work the show. Because the show is a really big deal for our club, and we need everybody sits hands on. So I'll be there on the Saturday, but I shall pop round and see how it's going.
Well, one thing I've agreed with the competition organisers is because I did get some feedback from guys in London that what they were finding is the 2-day event is a bit of a drawback. So one thing I have agreed is that if people want to share a ticket, then they could share an entrant. So one player could play on the Saturday and the other player could play on the Sunday, and they would play as one person. Now, they would have to use the same warband, and the person who plays the Sunday would pick up the position in the table of the first player, so they would be carrying on. But that is something that we've agreed that we can do to sort of take forward if that helps a few people who are struggling with the 2 days. I understand the 2 days is a bit of an issue for people, but it is the only 2-day event that we do. So
I mean, do you think that is the big issue? I mean, when I think about Grand Melee, when we went to Cardiff, that weekend we had 34 players. There was 34 there, but there was no other competitions to compete with. And you said it earlier, do you not think it's not worth trying next year, having a standalone event on a weekend that there is no competitions and just seeing if you get more people? Do you not think that's worth a go?
Yeah.
I know people go for the trade show as well, but
they're good questions. I don't think the 2-day, 1-2-day a year is the big problem. I do think it's the other events that is the problem. Whereby people are going to other events. We did try just before COVID We did do a grand melee in Nottingham, and I think we got mid-20s to that as well. So you do lose some people because they're saying, well, if I can't go around trade stands and this, that, and the other, you do lose some people. So whichever way you push it, you're going to lose some and gain some. What the optimum is, I don't know. I just think compared to version 1, or even though a lot of us think version 2 is a better game, I just think it's lost some of its shininess at the moment, and that needs sort of building up, and hopefully that'll come from these guys in the 30s who are sort of moving on from sort of Warhammer and all that sort of stuff, and hopefully coming into historical gaming, because you have to say about BritCon, when you looked around a lot of the different competitions,
yeah, I know.
It was nice to for people, but it was very grey. It was very grey.
I must admit, it's like that at our club. I mean, we're lucky at Reading. We can get 60, 70 people there on a club night, and there's 2 rooms, and I'm in the smaller room, and I think it's for the people with worse hearing, to be fair. Hopefully they're not watching this, but it feels like that a little bit. And you go in the other room, and all the 40k boys are in there, and it's a lot noisier.
Yeah.
But I honestly believe that's where the crossover is, and I think that there's merit in following that up. But I don't know. I mean, as I say, think about venues and think about the time when you do it, and maybe next year, if you need to change something, that's a direction. But that's up to you. So I don't know. That's just me looking on the outside in, really.
No, I think they're valid thoughts, and it may be that it needs somebody in their 30s from that Warhammer background to actually sort of move it on to actually because they can appeal to that audience more and understand what the audience is going to like more. So it may need that to actually move it on, and that's fine.
Do you know what? The other thing that we've not mentioned is Age of Magic. Now, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of it, but there are a lot of people are, and I think that is the potential for the crossover between 40k and Saga. That's actually a stepping stone. And if there were more tournaments, I mean, you can use Lord of the Ring figures, you can use dwarfs, you can use anything, can't you? That's the beauty of it. And I think that's actually a little bit more key for getting more people into our historical Saga.
Yeah, I'm completely aligned with that, but nobody's organised an Age of Magic competition. No. I mean, I'm not an Age of Magic player, so.
Or Rogers, but you've got to go to Chicago for it.
Yeah, but nobody in the UK is organised an age, and there's nothing to stop anybody at any club organising tournaments. I mean, we're blessed in the UK tournament-wise because you can look round and you've got Rich Keenan does his Ironman tournaments.
Brilliant, they're absolutely brilliant. Well recommended.
Yes, I agree. So anybody looking to step into Saga, there must be sort of half a dozen to 10 of those a year around the UK. And it's a great way of sort of seeing what the game's like. And then normally you get gaming stores up and down the country do tournaments that seem to get between 8 and 16 players, sort of one-day tournaments, and presumably it's people gathering together and that sort of thing. And you can see a lot of those up and down the country that you can go to if you want to. We only have sort of 2 or 3 tournaments that I would describe as national tournaments. So if somebody's looking to sort of say, well, I want to go to a more national tournament, and that's BritCon, which is always in the middle of August, and at the moment is at Nottingham, and it's the Grand Melee, which is at Warfare in the middle of November. Yeah. Those are the two main, what I would call national competitions. So.
Oh, well, listen, I'm excited about Age of Alexander coming. Interesting to see what happens with that, particularly as I've got loads of figures I can cross over. So that's coming a bit, and that'll be interesting.
They were probably moderns when you bought them, yeah.
Yeah. I was playing Fog. I think I was playing then. But listen, it's been great talking to you. Hopefully, we can inspire a few more people to play competition games. Get out there, give it a go. As I say, friendly bunch, and you'll learn a lot about the game as well. And I know I've got some bad habits when I play, and every time I upload games, people say this is wrong and that's wrong, and I learn from that. And if you play people from a different aspect, you learn how to play the game better and enjoy it better as well. So listen, Mark, thank you very much for coming on and chatting to us. about this, and I look forward to seeing you at Grand Melee, and I shall pop along and watch.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Graham.
One moment. That was a great chat talking to Mark about Saga and the competition scene in the UK. Hope you found it useful, and indeed, if you want to play in any competitions, follow the links that Mark shared with you and get involved. It's a great scene, and it's a great way to learn about our fantastic hobby. Anyway, hope you're all well. Please like this, subscribe it, share with like-minded. Take care, and see you all soon.